Hi, everyone. My name is Vivian Doe. I'm the project manager for Disability Voices United, Supported Decision Making, Training and Information Center, and we're really excited to bring to you today our very first Supported Decision Making Connect. This really came out of our two conferences last year, our Empowerment and Practice Conference, where we talked about both self-determination and supported decision making, that folks really wanted a place to connect, learn more about supported decision making, learn from people who have been practicing it all their lives, and learn from each other. And so we wanted to kick off this year with a brand new meeting, Supported Decision Making Connect. This will begin to be the last the last Monday of every month at 4 p.m. And so we're really excited to have everyone here. Before we begin with our amazing presentation and then panel today, I want to invite Gilda to be able to share some announcements for all of us.
Hello, everyone. My name is Gilda Hiron. I'm the Director of Outreach and Leadership Training here at Disability Voices United. And I wanted to take a moment to share an amazing opportunity for people with disabilities or family members served by regional centers. We are excited to invite all of you, if you're a person with a disability or a family member served by regional center, to be a part of our ambassador program. Our ambassador program plays a really important role in sharing information, helping us hear about what is happening in your community, and helping ensure that the voices of people with disabilities and families are included in conversations that impact our services and systems. You don't need prior experience, advocacy experience to participate. What we're looking for is people that are interested in sharing their lived experience and willingness to share. And um, if you have an interest in this, our ambassadors may participate in meetings, share resources, help us connect with the community members to information, and and be out there in the community and sharing about Disability Voices United. If it sounds like something you or someone you know may be interested in, we encourage you to learn more and apply. And I'll put my email in the chat if anyone's interested in learning more. And I'll also add in the link where you can find more information on our DVU website. Thank you, Vivian.
Thank you, Gilda, for those announcements. I know some folks are just joining on, and so before we get started, I do want to remind folks that we do have interpretation in Spanish once again. So if you could go to your bottom bar, there should be a globe that says interpretation, and please select your language, either English or Spanish. Even if you're listening in English, make sure you select English so that in case any questions are being interpreted from Spanish, you're able to hear that as well. Um, we're going to go ahead and begin sharing our slides.
Okay, Vivian, I'm going to start with the Spanish so that it will be default English. Okay. Spanish is up, so you can go ahead and start the English.
Perfect.
And then if anyone is unfamiliar with how this works, at the top of your screen, you're going to see two options. Vivian is going to say English slides. I'm going to say Spanish slides, and you can select the slides in the right language.
All right, everyone. Well, welcome again to our very first Supported Decision Making Connect. And really, the goal of this event, this is to really talk about learning and sharing and connecting with folks at any stage of their SDM journey. Whether you're just learning about supported decision making, you've been practicing it all your life, or maybe you've been practicing it all along, like I know we all are, and you just haven't learned what the terminology is for it yet. And so today we're really excited to bring you a truncated version of our supported decision-making training, and then we'll end with a panel. I do want to just invite folks to take a look at our YouTube. We have a playlist. Called Supported Decision Making. And there you'll have access to our more in-depth trainings on supported decision making. We have ones on finances, one on education, healthcare, voting. And so I highly encourage you to utilize those resources. And we'll share some more resources at the end as well. And you all have met me already. And so I'll pass it off to Britt to introduce herself.
Thank you, Vivian. Hello, all. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Britt Bellwine. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a lawyer and legal fellow with the American Civil Liberties Union, also known as the ACLU. My work is focused on representing people with disabilities who are looking to get out of conservatorship or to avoid being conserved in the first place, as well as assisting families and people with disabilities with creating supported decision-making agreements and other important legal documents. And I'm so excited to be here today with Vivian and Otto, who I admire and respect so much, and excited to speak with all of you.
Thank you so much, Britt. And now I'll have Otto introduce himself.
First things first, I want to thank Disability Voices United for hosting this amazing event, and for their support and leadership training. I also want to thank Vivian Doe, a great mentor and friend, and thank you to Britt Bellwine, the good kind of lawyer from the ACLU, for presenting with me. I also want to thank the audience for investing their time in us. Time is a precious commodity, and a non-renewal resource. I can honestly say, you will get a great return on your investment. My name is Otto Lana. Many of you know me as the guy with the great hair. I live in San Diego. I am a proud Latino. I have a smattering of sun-kissed freckles, dreamy blue eyes, and stylishly gelled short brunette hair. I am a sophomore at the University of San Diego. I have autism and apraxia and use augmentative and alternative communication, also known as AAC. Use of my iPad and speech generating software is a necessity. The Australian accent is a choice. My interactions with you are a product of supported decision making, beginning with my choice of the accent you hear. My accent is a part of my identity. I am an individual, in every sense of the term. I should have options for the way the world hears me, and something as simple as the pitch and tone of the computer-generated voice is important to me. I am a member of Disability Voices United Self-Advocates Speakers Bureau. I am iconic and ironic, an outspoken person with a speech-related disability. I have no oral fluency, but I have a lot to say. Buckle up, folks. You are in for a wild ride.
Thank you so much, Otto and Britt. And so, as we get started here, we're going to have Britt begin with giving an introduction to what made SDM come into law in California. And so, we'll pass it over to Britt to talk about SDM and California law.
Thank you, Vivian. So to talk about how SDM came to be in California, we have to talk about Assembly Bill 1663, also known as AB 1663. This was a law that the California State Legislature passed that took effect in 2023. This bill did three very important things. First, it recognized supported decision-making agreements as legally binding. So this means that a supported decision-making agreement has the same power in the eyes of a court, a judge, a hospital, a bank, any other institution you can think of, as a decision made by somebody who does not use conservatorship or as a decision made by somebody who is a conservator. This means that all of these powerful institutions have to recognize decisions that are made using a supported decision-making agreement and give someone who uses supported decision-making the opportunity to contact their supporters and make decisions together. Second, AB 1663 makes it easier for people who have already been conserved to get out of their conservatorship. Third, it requires courts to give people who have been conserved information about their rights and how they can end their conservatorship. Because while it's important that this law makes it easier to get out of your conservatorship, if you don't know how to go about doing that, you're going to still be stuck. So this law is very important and has allowed people with disabilities a new way to make their own decisions, practice autonomy, and exit their conservatorship while ensuring that their decisions will carry legal weight with these powerful institutions. Next slide, please. I find it helpful to think of decision making as a spectrum when we're talking about things like conservatorship and supported decision making, a spectrum that moves from less restrictive to more restrictive. On the far side is what, for lack of a better term, I'll call being the sole decider, being somebody who makes decisions without consulting other people, without using supported decision making or conservatorship. An individual who is the sole decider makes their own decisions. There's no action required to make decisions. You don't have to ask a court for permission. You don't have to sign an agreement to make your own decisions. But of course, people typically don't make all of their decisions entirely by themselves. I'm a person with a disability and I am not under conservatorship. I don't use supported decision making in a formal sense with an agreement. But when I have big decisions to make, I talk to the people around me, the people that I trust. I ask their advice on the big decisions that I have to make, or even the small decisions, like where should I go and get my coffee today? We all use supported decision making in our everyday lives, even if we don't call it that. So even though this far right column says sole decider, it's a little bit of a misnomer, perhaps, to say that people who aren't conserved and who don't use supported decision-making agreements never use supported decision-making. In the middle, we have supported decision-making, and on the far left, the most restrictive on the spectrum is conservatorship. And I'll talk through the details on the next slide. Conservatorship is a legally binding court order that says that a person with a disability, the self-advocate, cannot make their own decisions and somebody else gets to make their decisions for them. Under conservatorship, you typically have one or two conservators who make the decisions for the self-advocate. A court will hold a hearing to determine whether to place somebody under conservatorship, but even after getting this court order, a court will require you to come back, typically every 2 years, and appear in front of the judge again so that the judge can monitor the conservatorship and decide if it's still the best option for the self-advocate. If a court has concerns, the court can make the state the conservator instead of a friend, family member, or loved one serving as the conservator. And when this happens, the self-advocate no longer has people that know them well making decisions for them, but usually a complete stranger. And that stranger who works for the state can remove the self-advocate from their home, gets to decide who they can talk to and who they can see, and can really create an isolating life for a self-advocate. And another important thing to know about conservatorships is that if you ever want to change the conservatorship agreement, if you want somebody else to be your conservator, or if you are a conservator and can no longer serve as conservator, you have to go back to a court and ask a judge to change the agreement. This is also true for adding new rights. So if you are a self-advocate whose conservatorship court order says you cannot vote, and you later decide you want to be able to vote and your conservator agrees that you can and should vote, you have to go all the way back to a judge to ask for the judge to give you the right to vote, even if you and the conservator both agree. So there's a lot of court oversight. Next slide, please. And finally, with conservatorship, we talk about what's called a successor conservator. So if a conservator dies or becomes very, very ill and can no longer serve as conservator, they have to choose somebody else to succeed them, to take on that role. And if there is nobody who is willing to be the successor conservator, then the conservator again becomes the state and not a trusted loved one, friend, or family member. Next slide, please. So now that we've talked about some key features of conservatorship, I want to contrast that with some key features of supported decision-making agreements. Supported decision-making agreements formalize what we all do every day, asking other people for advice, trusting the people who know us well to help us make decisions. And under supported decision-making, a circle of supporters helps the self-advocate make and communicate decisions. So there's more support, there are more people to ask and to trust for help, but also it allows the self-advocate to make their decision at the end of the day, while under conservatorship, the final decision rests with the conservator and not with the self-advocate. Under supported decision-making, a self-advocate and their supporters sign an agreement, and this can be done either in front of a notary or with two neutral witnesses, which is a fancy word in the law for just two people who aren't the self-advocate or any of their supporters. There is no court hearing. You don't have to ask a judge for permission to create a supported decision-making agreement, and you also don't have to keep going back to court every 2 years to get the judge's approval. Supported decision-making agreements can be changed at any time to reflect changes in support needs or capacity. So while conservatorship requires you to go back to court if you need to make any changes, with supported decision-making, a self-advocate and their supporters can sit down together, decide to make a change, and change the agreement and sign it again. They can also decide that the self-advocate is able to make their own decisions without support and end the supported decision-making agreement without having to speak to a judge. So there's a lot more flexibility with supported decision-making, and it leaves room for both the self-advocate and their supporters to grow and change over time. Supported decision-making agreements can also work with power of attorney agreements. So a common situation I hear from clients is a self-advocate who knows that they really struggle with medical decisions and don't like making medical decisions and worry that if a big medical decision comes up, they won't be able to make it on their own. And they want to ask a loved one or a trusted friend to help make that decision for them, or if needed, completely make that decision for them. So in that case, we write up a supported decision-making agreement for all of the normal decisions of daily life, but can also write up a power of medical attorney agreement that says, if there is a medical emergency, a crisis, I trust my mom, my sister, my friend, whoever, to make my medical decisions for me. So if you need additional support, you can add these other legal agreements together with a supported decision-making agreement to ensure that you have all of the support that you need. Next slide, please. And on this slide, there are examples of supported decision-making agreements that the ACLU helped draft with Disability Voices United. On the left, you can see is an example of who a supporter might be, their name, their address, phone number, email address, and the self-advocate can talk through what choices they want this supporter to help them make. Maybe it's personal care, making choices about food, about clothing, about personal hygiene, choices about staying safe, like understanding how to get help if they're being abused, or making choices about alcohol and drugs, or choices about home, work, and friends, like where the self-advocate will live, whether they go to work or do activities throughout the day, and if they will hire and fire support staff. On the right side of the page is an example of the document a supporter would sign, where they acknowledge the responsibilities that they will carry as a supporter, and also the responsibilities that they have to the self-advocate to ensure that they are well, and that the supporter does not make decisions for the self-advocate, that they are only supporting them and making their own decisions. These are agreements. When I draft up these agreements with clients, I like to sit with the self-advocate, with their supporters, and write up specifics that the self-advocate has mentioned. And we sit down together and make any changes that people feel need to be made before we sign it. I also think it's really helpful to be able to talk about who a self-advocate does and doesn't want to make certain decisions. For example, I had a client who said, I really want my sister to help me make financial decisions or decisions about what I'll do with my time or what kind of staff I'm going to hire. But I don't want my sister's help when it comes to making decisions about dating or who I'm going to be in relationships with or what that looks like because I don't want to talk with my sister about that. So it really allowed us to craft an agreement that fit what the client needed. And in that case, his sister said, "Yeah, I also don't need to know too much about your love life, so I'm okay with you not asking me for help in those areas." Next slide, please. And finally, supported decision making, as we've discussed, is something that most people do every day, whether we call it supported decision making or not. But these agreements, they carry legal weight, and they're very important in situations like education, courts, hospitals, anywhere that somebody might question whether a self-advocate can make their own decisions. Having these agreements can be a very powerful tool to ensure that your autonomy and independence is respected. With that, I'll turn it back over to Vivian.
Thank you so much, Britt. Next, I want to just start off with this quote. I know we have a lot of family members, parents, and supporters joining us here today. So I just want to start with you have the ability to protect your child even more with support and without the court. And it's called supported decision making. And Britt touched on this a bit here, and we'll continue to talk more about how you can practice it and how you can practice it without a supported decision making agreement as well. Next, we'll go to the next slide here.
Thinking about alternatives to conservatorship should happen long before your 18th birthday. Supporting someone's decision starts in elementary school with presuming they are confident enough to make a decision in the first place. We can only be supported authentically when given the dignity of risk, living full and vibrant lives, making mistakes, and growing as humans. This is called supported decision making. Let's normalize our involvement in all of our life choices. Education is a huge part of our lives. With supported decision making, we are able to choose to learn a trade, our choice, sign up for courses that meet our interests, and even pursue a degree. These goals can only be realized with a coordinated team of supporters sharing in my vision. Managing personal health care is daunting for everyone. We need to make informed decisions about our healthcare needs. We have a support team here with us. Whenever we need them, gathering information to make decisions is a team effort. Dignity and respect for the goals and proper support will get you there. SDM means we are a part of our healthcare planning. Choosing where to invest your time in the workplace is a huge life decision. Many of the systems we navigate today often have a narrow focus on the limitations of disability. However, access to a strong circle of support can help bring vision and life to the informed decisions we make. With the right support, the landscape is much broader and everyone can see the possibilities, not the capacities. There are chapters in our lives that have yet to be fulfilled. With support, we can cultivate a future for ourselves, thrive. The goal should not be a life of survival on public assistance, preparing for the worst. Our best life is one where we have opportunities to make our own financial decisions. Of course, we need advice and support on budgeting, spending, and investing to have financial success. Everyone does. Being disabled should not equate to living in poverty. We have money to spend. Let us choose how to spend it. The freedom to experience all that life has to offer is my right. Living loud is thrilling and joyful. We are called to live full lives that inspire laughter, creativity,
I cannot tell you the number of times I have been told my son, my student, my client, is nothing like you, and my response is, you mean to tell me your son, student, client, doesn't have opinions, likes or dislikes, preferences? Does your son, student, client have a pulse? Then I guarantee they are like me. I understand they are referring to my ability to regulate and communicate, but dysregulation and miscommunication should not be the reason to lose your civil rights. Conservatorship is a vehicle to lose your rights. Regulation and communication are skills just as critical thinking and decision making. All of these skills require support, a circle of support. I am 21 years old and am actively involved in the decisions of my life. It has been that way for a decade now, since I was introduced to a text-based system of communication. Here is a video I made with my friends to show SDM in action. Those of you from San Diego may recognize the voice of the narrator, Halloran from 91X. Yeah, I'm connected, like a mob boss. Enjoy the show.
Thanks, Otto. And so Britt talked about what is supported decision making, and we'll give it a bit further context. And it's talking about how we choose supporters to help us make our decisions, helping us in ways like helping us understand what the decision we're making, consider the different options, as well as helping communicate our decisions, right? And the beauty of this is, as Britt was mentioning earlier, it's designed to change as life changes, right? At 18, regardless of disability, many of us don't make the best financial decisions, right? Maybe we're not very smart with a credit card, aren't really understanding those types of things. But maybe at 25, 35, 40, we're a lot better at those decisions and we need less support with them. So that's the beauty of supported decision making is as you grow and as life changes, and as you're in a different phase of your life, you can change what type of support you're getting, who you're getting it from, and how you're getting it. And so next, I'll pass it off to Otto to the next slide on talking about circles of support.
Here is where I get to say the F word. Come on, people, not that F word. I am talking about flexibility. Supported decision making gives you the flexibility to pivot as life changes, as new challenges or opportunities present themselves. You have the flexibility to make changes in your life and your circle of support without waiting for judges or lawyers or courts, and you are not saddled with costly legal fees because you had to change course in your life's journey. Don't get worked up. I am not a renegade or a maverick. Laws are good. Lawyers are good. I have some legally binding documents on the ready. If something happens and I am unable to authentically communicate my wishes, I have an advance directive. I have my people listed in my HIPAA at my medical provider's office. I have my people listed at University of San Diego, where I currently attend in the FERPA, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. I have a power of attorney and I have a co-signer on my bank account. All these documents are woven together to create a safety net of my making. No one has all the answers. This is why I have a large circle of support.
We'll go to our next slide.
SDM looks like whatever you want it to. There are infinite ways to practice SDM. There are different levels of support for different activities and situations in your life. This is how everyone lives. Last time I checked, even a neurosurgeon cannot perform their own brain surgery. I guarantee, if you are human, disabled or not, you practice supported decision making. No one lives in isolation. We all need and seek out advice from time to time. Some people want complete support for every decision in their life. Some want complete autonomy, and some want a combination of the two. Whatever works for you is the correct choice.
Go to our next slide.
Thanks for your undivided attention. This stuff is important, so listen and learn. and hopefully we will laugh together along the way, because supported decision-making brings joy to everyone. I live a wonderfully interdependent life with supported decision-making at its core. Decision-making is a human right. If we didn't care about people's opinions and trusting others' input, why do apps like Yelp exist? And if you tell me you have never looked at the customer ratings on Amazon, I will not believe you. And if changing your mind is not a basic activity, why do Nordstrom's and Costco have such lenient return policies? Those retailers believe in, they embody, dignity of risk. They want you to try new things outside of your comfort zone. If your choice didn't work out as you hoped, they are there with open arms and support for your next adventure. They will not shame you for trying out new, different things. This is what autonomy is all about. The freedom to choose. And you can choose not to change. That is a choice too. We all have circles of support. Everyone in this room, everyone here knows a guy who knows a guy that can fix your car or unclog your drain. And this probably isn't the same guy you will call if you lose your prescription for seizure meds or forget your password to your online banking. No one lives in isolation. We all have safety nets and circles of support. Of SDM cannot happen without support. Advocating for your child, or the person who you support, can take many forms. It can look like requesting extra time and an appropriate location, as well as the method of communication that is most effective in the moment, is part of the process. Presuming competence is the first and most important aspect of supported decision-making. We must believe in those we support. We must believe they are competent and have the capacity to have opinions about how they want to live their lives. Authentic communication is the core of supported decision-making. Whatever system of communication your person uses, the circle of support needs to honor that system and presume competence. I use a text-based system of communication. 26 letters combined to make words and sentences, which form ideas. This type of communication is time-consuming. Authentic communication is priceless, and the investment in time is non-negotiable.
And we'll talk about more about the advantages of supported decision making, like Otto was saying, is this expanded circle of support, and Britt touched on this too. Conservatorship can be very small. Your circle of support is you really just have one person making decisions for you, right? Whereas in supported decision making, you can have as many people as you want being around you and helping you support those decisions, and that actually protects you more against abuse than in a conservatorship. Another thing is support without the court. We don't have time to touch on it here, but we will share the link to our handbook at the end of this. But we don't, it's very dangerous to have the courts in our lives and having them intervene and be in control of it, especially with everything that is going on right now with issues of immigration. And so that's another thing I want to warn against about conservatorships. Again, we've touched on this so many times, and I really want to emphasize the flexibility to change your mind is beautiful. You don't have to go to the courts anytime support needs change, and maybe a day to day something needs to change. And if you do choose to use an agreement, you can change it at any point in time and not have to go through lawyers. Which also protects you against some fees. I've seen conservatorships go for a very high dollar amount. And so that's another thing to warn you about too. And for those who are wanting to have that, want to fill out some paperwork and know that you can attach supported decision-making agreements, like Britt was saying, to legally binding documents. Now we'll go on to practicing supported decision-making from Otto with multimodal communicators.
Hopefully you have heard this term before. Think about it. We are all multimodality communicators. Have you ever flipped someone off or honked your horn when you were cut off by another driver? Have you ever responded to a text with an emoji? Have you ever nodded your head in agreement, or rolled your eyes in exasperation? All of these things communicate a message. I avoid the debate of non-speaking versus non-verbal, as I avoid deficit labels in general. It is not that hard to learn a new term. Think about the first time you heard the term people of color. Now everyone knows the acronym POC. So what does this mean? What are the modes of communication for people with speech-related disabilities? The modes are many. It can be vocalizations or facial expressions, gestures or ASL, choice boards with words or pictures, iPads with specialized software, letterboards with trained communication partners voicing over the text message. The important takeaway message here is authentic communication. However that message is conveyed is the mode to utilize. Familiarity and presumption of competence are key. Practicing is just that, repetition and practice, again and again. There is no such thing as errorless learning. We all learn from unexpected outcomes. Mistakes are inevitable. We are human. But remember, we deserve the dignity of risk. Let us take risks. Let us make choices that seem to differ from what you may have chosen. The key is to confirm the communication if you are unsure. Communication and making choices takes practice. They are skills that take time to learn. SDM is like dancing the tango or playing doubles tennis. You have to trust your partners to have positive results. I use a text-based system of communication and have an extensive vocabulary, but I also need many things broken down into plain language. I am a baller and a scholar, but I am not a lawyer or a physician. Sometimes legalese and medical jargon can be confusing. There is no shame in asking for plain language descriptions. Again, ChatGPT would not exist if people didn't need this type of translation. Use the tools.
We'll go to our next slide here. And this one, we're talking about exploring decision-making supports, right? Not every decision is the same, and not in every decision do I need the same level of support, or do I have the same supporter, right? And so there is this amazing guide. It is linked in our handbook as well, which Michaela has put in the chat, the link to access our handbook. Um, and through here, you can talk about different types of decisions you make in your life and decide whether this is something you can decide with no support, something you need some support with your decision, and something that you need someone to decide for you at that time. And that's a completely valid response. And then the beauty of that and the difference between conservatorship is that you can revoke that right for them to make that decision for you at any time. Another thing I want you all to think about as you are exploring decision supports is how you want to be supported, right? Whether that's talking through your pros and cons. Maybe you need someone to repeat things back in a more plain language manner. Maybe it's you need some emotional support when you attend visits, right? What support looks like changes, right? And it can be more hands-on or it can be more hands-off. And so I encourage you all to think about it. And there's also not a one size fits all. It's a lot of trial and error in thinking about what level of support and how that support is going to help you. And so next, on our next slide, we'll talk a little bit about supported decision making in healthcare settings. We really want to talk about having supporters that can help us access healthcare, understand medical information, and make medical decisions, right? And that's really framing decisions within the context of how our self advocate can understand it, right? As someone who was a supporter of someone before, the person I was supporting had to get a flu shot and a TB test, right? But their initial thought is, I don't like needles. I don't want to get it. I don't want to get it. We needed to reframe that medical decision for them in a way, in a context that they understand it. And that's the type of support they needed, right? So we shared that, you know what, flu shot is optional, but here are some pros for it and here are some cons for it. Here are the pros and cons for a TB test, right? We also shared other options. Maybe you don't want a TB test, but maybe we can go and ask if we can do a lung x-ray instead. And the pros of that is that will be valid for a longer period of time as well. We did also talk about how, though these are both optional, for the program that she wanted to join, she needed to get those done so that she would be able to participate in that internship, right? All of these were not things that came to front of mind for her. And so, as her supporter, I was helping her understand the medical decision that she was making. And so, that's just one small example. And again, these are a truncated version of our training. And so, I encourage you to look at our in depth healthcare one that's available on our YouTube. And next, I'll pass it off to Otto for SDM in finances.
Parents often worry about their children being taken advantage of financially. We constantly hear of scams, of Nigerian princes asking for money, schemes to get personal information and accounts are hacked and funds are stolen. This is a fact. But conservatorship will not protect your child from financial fraudsters. We all have made poor financial decisions in life. But this is no reason to remove a person's civil rights. There are positive ways to add a layer of protection, and we can all strive to be more protected and have a greater amount of financial literacy, whether we are disabled or not. Joint bank accounts or co-signers, which I have, durable power of attorney for finances. If I become incapacitated and incapable of communicating, my trusted circle of support can make financial decisions on my behalf. I am a Calable ambassador. A Calable account is a great way to save for your future without affecting your entitlements, your SSI, or your Medi-Cal. The limits for age and contributions have just increased this year, so please check out their website calable.ca.gov. Special needs trusts are a perfect example of the legal profession protecting your rights and your assets. Also a representative payee, a trusted person to communicate and coordinate your funds. You need a robust system of communication. You need an environment where safety and regulation are prioritized, and the special education system is not known for this. You are a box to be checked on a data sheet. You are rarely seen as a competent individual, regardless of the fact that the I in IEP stand for individualized. You will hear, we do not do it this way. No one else has ever asked for or requested this, so we cannot accommodate this. For individuals with speech-related disabilities, the world is binary, this or that, now and later, first and next, cookie or cracker. There is a default of black and white, because educators have two hands and will hold up both hands as a form of communication choice. It is lazy. There are infinite shades of gray. We are currently living in a society where the Department of Education is being defunded and special education is being dismantled. When those who require special education services to be successful are dehumanized and disregarded, it is no surprise you as parents will be railroaded into conservatorship at your student's 18th birthday. When your student has existed in a world of cookie or cracker for 15 years, you cannot conceive of their capacity to form decision related to life choices. Supported decision-making happens from the beginning. Just like their neurotypical peers, you will undoubtedly get a great deal of pushback if you try to practice SDM in the K-12 setting. I know I did. I requested to attend my IEP meeting and the team responded with, how can we talk about you if you are in the room? There is the crux of the problem. They did not believe in me. They did not presume competence. They did not believe I had the capacity to make decisions regarding my journey in the educational realm. They believed I was a thorn in their side. The pandemic was the great equalizer for me. All of a sudden my request to attend IEP meetings and create my own goals was seen as welcome addition to all the horrors that were happening in 2020. Yes, at 18 you are an adult. But signing the Educational Decision-Making Authority, which is California Education Code Section 56041.5, allows for your parents to still have input to your services. So when the IEP teams tries to scare you into conserving your soon-to-be adult child, you will have the correct information at hand. What does supported decision-making look like for me now? There are infinite ways to see SDM in action. For me specifically, it is attending classes at University of San Diego. I need transportation to get to campus, so my support drives me there. I have apraxia, so I need communication support in the form of a trusted and trained communication partner voicing over my messages, or if the classroom is accessible, which is not very often, I can set up my whole system, like you see here, with a laptop and iPad. and a Bluetooth keyboard.
We'll go to our next slide about supported decision-making in other areas.
I realize I am fortunate. I have lived in the same community my entire life. Everyone in town knows me, from the bankers to the bakers. The bankers know I like to sit at their desk, not stand at the teller window to complete my financial transactions. And the bakers know I like red velvet cake and fresh baked chocolate chip cookies. I need help with all my activities of daily living. But I am very particular about my wardrobe and my hairstyling. No Crocs and sweatpants for me. I have a refined palate and do not want Chick-fil-A or McDonald's. I love to go to the movies on the weekends and will watch anything except horror movies. I do my banking on Saturday because there are fewer people in the bank, and I exercise every single day by hiking the local trails year-round and swimming in the ocean in the summer. I have a very busy schedule for my advocacy career. I have only turned down one invitation. A local high school refused to consider me as a student, and then when April 12 was proclaimed, Otolana Day, in San Diego, they invited me to come speak. I politely declined. Everyone has a different idea what their perfect day is, and that is the beauty of SDM. It is all up to you. The important thing is to have a circle of support and a system of communication. Next step, living your authentic life. I have always been very opinionated about my choices. Before I had the robust system of communication I have now, my attempts to express my desires were seen as aberrant behavior and non-compliance. It was a frustrating life for sure. I wasn't presumed competent. I wasn't allowed to make informed choices because no one believed I could process information or had the ability to critically think. Oh, how wrong they were. That is probably why being an outspoken advocate is my life's mission. Advocacy is a choice, a decision supported by my team, my circle of support. Living an authentic life is advocacy too. My family is my biggest cheerleaders and my fiercest supporters. They are my ride or die. I hike the trails at Torrey Pines State Reserve every day, every single day, rain or shine, and in the summer I body surf. All the lifeguards and state park rangers know me. I hike the trails independently. My parents are near me, but not directly next to me. The state reserve is a safe place. There are no cars and the trails are all connected. You will not get lost. So I do not need or want support staff hovering over me. Here is my time to soak up nature. A few weeks ago we got to the trails a little later. We finished our hike after the sun had set. It was raining. Yes, I hike in the rain. I had my flashlight and my rain jacket on. I was hiking alone. My parents 5 minutes behind me. The new rangers decided to stop me on the trail and interrogate me as to why I was in the park after sunset. They had their emergency lights flashing and a bright spotlight on me. They were shouting questions from their truck. They did not get out of their truck because it was raining. My parents saw the flashing lights and were concerned. As they turned the corner, they saw what was going on. My dad ran to catch up to me and asked the rangers what exactly was happening, why they stopped me. They did not have an answer. I imagine they thought I was a suspicious person up to no good. My dad tried to explain their approach was obliged and offensive. Later that week we took my picture to the ranger station along with a couple videos about me and my mom's cell number, and now, any new rangers will know I am completely capable of hiking the trails independently and my circle of support is not far behind. Opportunities for independence need to be embraced and supported. Providing information about me allows the rangers to do their job in a respectful manner. They had never met anyone like me. Charismatic, athletic, a baller and a scholar. My message here is be proactive. Think outside the box about your circle of support. The rangers in the park are in my circle of support. They needed information about me to confidently support me. I want to leave you with a very important message. Voting is a right. You have to exercise your right to vote to be heard. As a disabled person, it has never been more important to be heard. Our protests and cries of discrimination are falling on deaf ears. There needs to be a reckoning. Our way of life is under attack. We have to vote. We need lawmakers and leadership who will represent our right to live how we choose. Supported decision-making allows you to retain the right to vote. Do not let this right be taken away. Yes, we need support to access our ballots, and the polls, and the people and policies to cast our votes for. We are a huge demographic, so if you remember only one thing today, remember individuals living a supported life with supported decision-making will be able to cast their vote to change the tide. In fact, I think if all those approaching their 18th birthday understand the power they wield with their vote, it won't be a changing of the tide. It will be a freaking tsunami. Get your life jackets on, because we are in the splash zone now. I want to plug my upcoming event at USD on April 18th and 19th. I founded the Alliance for Disability Advocates, the ADA Club on campus, and we will be showing 2 films on disability. I will be presenting at the Birth of Brilliance conference on February 26 and the Karma conference on June 6th. Please follow me on Instagram at Otto_types. That is OTTO_TYPES for more information. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Otto. And as we round out this presentation before we get to our panel, I want to highlight some of this. And again, all of this is in our handbook, so we'll go over it really briefly. There's this chart which talks about where you want to support your self-advocate, your child, and then what type of documents might be helpful to use. And again, none of this is necessary, but these are just kind of a good guidance. Maybe for finances, you want a durable power of attorney, or maybe a special needs trust or an ABLE account. And so this chart kind of follows through that there. And for next steps to getting started, being here, learning more, identifying who your current supporters are, and creating goals. Maybe that's making new supporters, creating a supported decision-making agreement if you want. Determine what forms you might need. Maybe you want help with your educational decisions and you're over 18, and so you want to have an educational disclosure form. And finally, advocate for SDM in your child's life. Like Britt was saying, this law is very new, which means that we have to do a lot of work on our end to educate the professionals around us too. And so we'll put in the chat something that can be very helpful. It's called a Know Your Rights card. It's a little card that says, I use supported decision making, and it quotes the law. It talks about it in first person so you understand. And if you flip it over, it quotes a direct law that says that you can have your supporter with you in any meeting, in any communication. And it has a QR code for them to access the full law if they have any questions about it too. That's really helpful. We put it in the chat. Feel free to print it out and keep it along in your wallet. And with that, that concludes our presentation. And so please fill out, if you can, scan this feedback form that we have, as well as our supported decision-making handbook is available here. We'll put the links to both of these in the chat as well. Before we start our panel, I do want to announce one thing, is that Disability Voices United has worked with Exceptional Minds and Spectrum Labs to be able to create a series of animated videos talking about supported decision making, so that you can kind of watch them. Maybe animated videos are more easier for you to consume than live videos. And so we just wanted to debut one of our first videos, and it's supported decision making, the right to make decisions. And so you all will be the first to be able to see this. Some of you might have gotten a sneak peek at Draft's version at our conference, but we'll go ahead and show this video here, and all of them will be uploaded to our YouTube as well as on our social media in the coming weeks as well. So we just wanted to debut it here at our very first Supported Decision Making Connect.
As parents, we can think of lots of choices we made when we were young that we regret. Choices often have risks.
We can think of lots of choices we made when we
But making a decision with reasonable risks is a great way to grow and learn from our mistakes. Our children with disabilities deserve to make mistakes and learn from them. This is called dignity of risk. Allowing our children to make decisions and learn from them promotes self-esteem and encourages them to be involved and interested in their activities. This self-determination allows our adult children to have more choice and control over their lives and can lead to better outcomes. It has also been shown to reduce the likelihood of abuse.
As parents and supporters of our loved ones, our goal is to protect our children. But it is also important to remind them that no one is perfect and that making mistakes is okay. Making a mistake is how we learn and grow. Practicing decision-making skills allows them to learn when and what types of support they need. In practicing decision-making with our children, we also learn ways to communicate the options to help them make good choices that are their own. And it helps us as parents to learn how to explain things clearly so our children understand.
Making good decisions is a skill that we learn. As parents and supporters, it is important to encourage decision-making at the youngest age possible, even if they are small decisions at first. This can begin with smaller decisions with little to no risk, such as choosing their clothes for the day or deciding their after-school activities. As your child grows older, continue to involve them in different bigger decisions. Have them participate in their IEP meetings at school. Include them in conversations with their doctor. As you practice these decision-making skills, it gives your child a safe space to explore their options and to learn about the type of support they want to make decisions. Helping them build these skills begins with empowering our children to make choices for themselves and not be forced into a decision by others. This means learning no is an acceptable choice. Oftentimes, children are told, "I don't know" is not the right answer. But it is important to encourage them to ask questions if they do not know. Promote curiosity and ask questions about the options they have so they know they can make decisions with the help of others.
Supported decision-making allows people with disabilities to make decisions about their lives with support from others. It allows them to have choice and control over their lives without involving the courts through conservatorship. Supported decision-making has existed since the 1980s and is written into law in over 30 states in the United States. In California, supported decision-making was signed into law in 2022. The bill aimed to reform probate conservatorships and to recognize supported decision-making as an alternative. Supported decision-making allows those with disabilities to be supported while making decisions. It protects people from exploitation by their circle of support and shields them from the risks of conservatorship. Decision-making is a right we all have regardless of our disability. It is a human right to make choices about our lives.
So we're super excited to be able to share that. And with working with Exceptional Minds and Spectrum Labs, all of these videos were created by self-advocates. All of the audio and voiceover were also created by self-advocates. So really special for us to be able to work on this project with them and to create this with support of the State Council of Developmental Disabilities as well. And with that being said, we are going to open it up to our panel and have any questions folks may have. So please feel free to type questions in the chat, raise your hand, and we'll call on you to answer any questions. One of the questions that I got first, as we kick it off for Otto, is were you ever, did anyone ever try to, I know you talked about this a little bit earlier, but did anyone try to convince you of conservatorship? And if so, what made you choose supported decision making over this?
No one knows everything about everything. Everyone needs support some of the time. Cognitive ability should not stop you from giving your son an authentic life through supported decision making. SDM is organic and evolving. Trust yourself. No one makes large, life-changing decisions alone. Everyone asked for advice, and yes, during an IEP, the transition teacher recommending conservatorship, a person who did not know me or my family, or my living situation, a person that was assigned to attend my IEP meeting because I was a certain age. Luckily for me, DVU was supporting the law AB 1663, and that is when I turned 18. So there was the law in California which supported my decision to not be conserved. I would say I have been actively involved in the decision-making process of my life since I was 10. That is when I was given a text-based system of communication, and I could authentically communicate for myself. Prior to that time, I was stuck in the binary world of this or that, the rudimentary substitute for authentic communication. SDM allows me to grow as an individual, living a life designed by me. The freedom to choose the amount of support I need is core.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Otto. We have a question from Melissa at 435 is, as an IF, I have recently heard from two families that have had issues, one with the hospital and one with the fair hearing process. And so I'm gathering this is a lot about pushback about using supported decision making. I'll go ahead and answer this is, again, supported decision making is very new, so we're still in this phase of educating providers and professionals about this new law. What I encourage you as an IF is to share with them the Know Your Rights card, and so that they can present that law there. And that law very clearly states that they can have their supporters present with them in any and all situations as well. And so that's the first step. I encourage you to do that there. In our handbook as well, there's a primer for healthcare professionals and other professionals as well, in case they are interested in learning more and they need that. And so, as a first step, we have to be proactive about educating others about this new law. Next, we have this question from Richard at 454. I am my son's conservator only to be sure his mother does not have the authority that she would for abuse. I do support the concept of supported decision making. Is there an SDM process to address this issue? And we'll go ahead and have Britt answer this question.
Yes, hi, this is Britt. I believe someone in the chat maybe said something along these lines, but the idea of SDM itself should help protect from that because supported decision making says that your son, for example, would be the final decision maker. And while you or any other trusted loved ones could support that decision making and help with that decision making, you don't get the final decision. So ideally, an SDM agreement would limit, if there's concerns of abuse with his mother, would limit, the kinds of decisions that she would be helping him with, and would say clearly that she can't make decisions for him. If, despite having that agreement in place, there were still concerns of, financial abuse, physical abuse, things like that, that is the kind of thing that would maybe be better suited to direct towards protective services or towards, if needed, another sort of legal intervention and mediation. But SDM itself is designed to protect from that kind of abuse.
Richard has his hand up, Vivian.
Yeah, Richard, if you want to continue on with this question of yours, please, Michaela should be able to ask you to unmute.
Thank you. I'm just really starting to study this, so I don't want to ask questions that that I'll discover as I do my own research. But I use the word abuse, and it's really not abuse. My son is very disabled. Um, he meets every criteria in the regional center system for eligibility, and he really can't make important decisions about where he lives and such. He really can't even chime in on that. Um, so I decided that I wanted to be conservator, and it was a contest against his mother, my ex-wife, because I didn't want her to have those powers. And so that's what I'm looking for. And I don't need to hear a detailed answer. Just is there an answer in this process if I'm patient to learn it all? Um, because every time I say I'm his conservator, I feel like, well, I shouldn't be. Um, but I felt I needed to be to protect him, and not from abuse that protective services would be involved in, but with things as simple as can he have a doll in his home? Um, I don't object. She does. So that's just a small example. But I'll be quiet now unless there's an expanded answer. Thank you very much for doing this.
Of course. And I will say, yeah, and Tina's got great advice in the chat. He can, choose who will be in his circle of support. And I do think that these are answers you'll find through the process. And folks at DVU are fantastic community navigators and great folks to talk to. And if you have, legal questions about what SDM might look like and how to balance tensions and conflicts between supporters, that's a great thing to discuss. And I'm always happy to discuss potential legal issues. And I'll put my email in the chat for anyone who has, if you have complex legal questions about your specific situation, please feel free to email me. I don't charge for legal services, so I'm happy to meet and discuss with folks.
I just wanted to interject real quick. Thank you, Britt, because this is our first SDM Connect, and it's a little bit more of like a training setting than we usually do. But just to Richard, like the concept behind it is to learn from us, but also to be like a support for each other. So the questions are great. Like this is what we want is to talk to each other about it and to talk to other parents who are doing it. So definitely thank you for asking.
I know Judy has her hand raised.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to speak, and I apologize for my extremely casual workout attire here. But Richard, you raise a very, very important question that I have received over many, many times over the many years that I've been training on supported decision making. And what I'm going to say is that the risks are actually higher in conservatorship than it is outside of conservatorship. And let me give you some examples. I know of multiple cases of divorced parents who who bring their disagreements, and you're lucky that this has not happened, Richard, so I'm glad to hear it hasn't. But I know of stories where divorced parents bring their disagreements on small things from whether can this individual have a doll to big things like where they're going to live and how much each parent is going to support them financially. Really big things. They bring those disagreements into the probate court. And remember that the probate court is where conservatorships are heard. It's not the family law court. The family law court is where divorces are heard. So those judges are sort of used to these disagreements between husband and wife as they're settling issues of whether it's child support or alimony or whatever. So when these disagreements, especially over raising a disabled child, spill into probate courts, the judges in these probate courts, they get impatient very quickly. And the stories that I have heard from many people is that they then make threats to say, you either come to an agreement or I'm taking away conservatorship from both of you, and I'm giving that conservatorship to a professional, meaning like it could be a professional fiduciary who can be charging as much as $15,000 a month to be the conservator. Or it could be, if the person has no resources, it could be a public guardian, or what is more likely to happen than a public guardian is the regional center. That the judge will establish that the regional center become, or DDS become the conservator of record, which is really problematic because then there's nobody advocating and the parents lose the right to even attend their child's IPP and have any say in where their child, what kind of services their child gets. So there are a lot of risks within the conservatorship system when there is a divorce. And I always say to parents who are absolutely hell-bent on conserving their kids that I say, are you 1,000% sure you're never going to get a divorce? Like you are 1,000. And then it always comes, well, I'm not 1,000% sure. And sometimes we disagree. I'm like, then what are you doing? You're walking into some really big problems. I mean, I would say to you, Richard, that if you have not had any of those risks, had any of those things happen since you've conserved your son, then it's unlikely that your ex-wife is going to start coming in and trying these shenanigans. But it can be done. It has been done, and it very commonly ends up that what we know about conservatees in the state of California, both people with intellectual and developmental disabilities as well as older adults and other disabilities, is that more than half of their conservators are non-family members, which means they're often total strangers to that individual. And we know that if they're a stranger, it's unlikely for them to have the best interest of that individual in mind because they don't even know the individual. So there's a whole lot of reasons to try to avoid conservatorship in the first place. But now that you're in it, Richard, I think that there are other ways to protect your son beyond even though I don't like to say this out loud, it is possible to practice supported decision making in a conservatorship. It's not something that we at all recommend because it can go to hell very quickly, but it can be done if someone is stuck in a conservatorship. And so I would suggest that you try to practice. And I mean, I know Rich, I know you're Richard and I know your son, and I know that when your son does have very have wants, and desires, that you abide by those in those areas where you can. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Judy. And I'll actually have Britt share a little bit more about resources that if other folks are in the situation where maybe they got a conservatorship because they didn't know about any other options and now want to get out. Britt has resources, so I'll give it to Britt here.
Yes, yeah, I guess to clarify for folks, some of the legal services I can provide, in addition to helping create supported decision-making agreements, are also assisting with folks who are under conservatorship and want to end the conservatorship. That can be if you are a self-advocate who is conserved and wants to get out, or if you are the loved one conservator of a self-advocate and realizing that you and your loved one with a self-advocate are ready to try supported decision-making instead. Anything of that legal realm, exiting conservatorship, creating SDM agreements, talking about options. I can help with all of that. And again, because I work for the ACLU, I'm able to provide all of that for free. So if you are like, yeah, I want to exit conservatorship, I want to explore that option, but I don't know where to turn, I can't afford an attorney. The great news is that at ACLU, we don't charge anyone for legal services. So again, feel free to reach out if this is a bridge you are ready to cross or a conversation you're ready to have. Always happy to meet with folks.
And Britt, Tina just added, can you help with adjustments to SDM agreements?
I can help with adjustments to SDM agreements. Great question, Tina. Yeah, if you have an agreement, you want to make adjustments, I can help with that. If you have difficulty getting somebody to recognize your SDM agreement, I'm happy to write a little letter in legalese that says, hey, you have to honor this. It's the law. Really, any legal issues you're having with conservatorship, and or SDM, feel free to reach out. The things I cannot do are like creating a special needs trust, for example, but I can try to refer you to somebody who can.
Thank you so much, Britt. And that kind of touches on one of the questions that got answered in the chat, but I'll summarize it a bit so that those listening on our Spanish channel will be able to see the responses that some physicians won't allow anyone in the room with our DD adult children during their exams. Do adult children have the right to have their supporters present with them using SDM? SSA told us no. They said no, even with a power of attorney. As Britt has mentioned, again, this law is very new and some people don't know the law. We have some primers available. There's the Know Your Rights card, and Britt is also, like she said, willing to provide a letter in legalese to help with that as well. But according to the law, you are allowed to have supporters with you present. But Britt did have a caveat. There might be a couple of questions in the beginning that they will ask just to evaluate for situations of abuse, like asking things like, do you feel safe at home? Are you okay with this person being in the room as well? Our next set of questions we'll kind of lump together, and it's talking about, must you have a written agreement with your supporters? And is there someone to help with the creation of SDM agreements and legal documents? As Britt mentioned, she can help with some of that legal documents. But again, supported decision-making agreements are not required. And a lot of times we practice supported decision-making every day regardless, right? Like even myself, like I don't know anything that happens to cars. When lights start popping up on the screen, I call my dad, right? And that is a form of supported decision making to help me make decisions about my mode of transportation and things like that, right? And so a lot of us practice it very informally. But if you do choose to use an agreement, it is not necessary to go to a lawyer. You can, but it's not necessary. You just need to have witnesses, two neutral witnesses sign it. And again, not required at all. And then next, we have a question for Otto. Oh, sorry.
Can I just add, not only is it not required to use a lawyer to do a supported decision-making agreement, I would strongly urge against it, unless that lawyer happens to be Brit. But most lawyers who are probate lawyers make their money off of conservatorships. And so if you go in and try to get them to do a supported decision-making agreement, first of all, you can do it by yourself. Like it's not complicated. No legal mumbo jumbo is in it. Everything is very understandable. So they're going to try to charge you an arm and a leg to do something you could completely do by yourself. So I strongly, strongly recommend against finding a lawyer to do a supported decision-making agreement. And the SDMA is not, you should know, I've been practicing. My son is turning 29 on Friday. We have been practicing supported decision-making now for 11 years, and we have no supported decision-making agreement. So it is absolutely not necessary to have.
Thank you for that insight, Judy. Our next question we have is for Otto is can you share about a time when you had to make a really big decision and giving an example about that, where you had to use support there?
My circle of support knows I love to research things. The internet is a wonderful place. I use Google and ChatGPT. I research websites. I email people. I have conversations with people I trust. I have conversations with people who are referred to me based on the questions I am researching. I love a good long list. I reserve the right to change my mind. I give myself permission to pivot. I do not want to get stuck. Paralysis of indecision is a real thing. Just choose, take a leap, move forward. When they disagree with the decision I have made, they are there for the just in case, the worst case scenario. They know we're always learning is an oxymoron. We learn from our mistakes. I have not had a scenario where my circle of support has rejected my decision. The biggest decision I have made this far in my life has been which college to attend. We visited colleges, spoke to support staff, and ultimately decided the size of the campus and the number of students attending, and the willingness to support my success was University of San Diego.
Thank you so much for sharing, Otto. I just want to share more from some from the chat talking about wanting people practicing informal supported decision making for over 24 years, and only knowing now what that terminology is and getting that agreement. So again, not necessary. And others also sharing about how and expensive it can be if they were to you were to have an attorney to walk through things in a plain language way as well. Um, and then I have a question here that says, I agree supported decision making can be done with individuals and notarized. However, the power of attorney legal documents, and the only option seems to be an attorney or downloading a form online. Is my understanding correct? And so I'll direct that question to Britt.
Yes, great question. So you can download forms online. The reason most people tend to go to lawyers for these documents is because lawyers know the right special magic legal words to put in a document so that it carries this legal weight. But a lot of these forms that you can download online have all of the required words. For example, just doing a quick Google search, a lot of local libraries actually will have these forms available, and the California judicial websites often have forms for power of attorney. So you don't have to get a lawyer. You can download this yourself and read through it. It can be confusing language, but as long as you sign it, and the person who is the self-advocate signs it, it should be good to go legally. The key to all of these legal documents, really, anyone can write most of these forms if you know the right words. For power of attorney, for example, saying, I, Britt, give Vivian the power to make my medical decisions for me if I am incapacitated or otherwise unable to make decisions. I understand that, what that means, and I'm okay with it. I've signed, Vivian has signed, and at least one, maybe two other witnesses have signed saying we saw Britt and Vivian sign the document, and Vivian was not forcing Britt to sign the document. She did it of her own free will. And that's basically all that these forms are saying. So you do not have to get an attorney to write one. You could, in theory, write one if you wanted, but I think that the libraries and copies you can usually find online, as long as they're California specific, tend to be very good.
Thank you, Britt. And I'll add to it that in our handbook, as well, at the very end of our digital version, we have sample plain language versions of a lot of these documents, such as power of attorney for healthcare, power of attorney for finances, educational disclosure forms. All of that is in our handbook. We don't have representative payee or but we do link to resources to it. So I encourage you to take a look at that as well. Michaela is going to put in a chat a kind of summary of all the links that we share throughout there, as well as Britt's contact information too. So if you need access to the slides, the handbook, the Know Your Rights card, we're going to do a little dump right now of all of that information once again, so folks don't have to scroll to the top of the chat there. And as we begin to wind down on our very first supported decision making connect, I want to thank everyone for being here and for being here for our very first session. This really, again, came about from our conference and folks really wanting a place to connect. And as we begin to end it, I want everyone to, if there's something that you want to know more about supported decision making, please put it in the chat so we can come up with things that you want to share and learn more about in future sessions. Some sessions in the future, it will be training style like this where we have a presenter. Other times we might run it more like a support group where we have some talking points and we shared about, the highs and the lows of us using supported decision making and maybe pushback we felt and how we've accomplished all the successes we've had and sharing with one another as well. So if you have anything that you want us to discuss, any resources you want us to provide and share, please do put it in the chat. We are capturing everything here. And so as well,
While
I see.
everybody's, oh, sorry,
Oh,
Vivian.
sorry, go ahead, Michaela.
I'm just going to say, while everybody's typing, I wanted to see if Britt might be able to answer Tina's question. Says, who do you give your agreements to? I did my SDMA, but I wasn't sure who I need to share it with.
Yes, as far as who to share it with, the most important thing is just that you always have a copy available so that if somebody asks, a judge, somebody you have a copy you can show them. I would recommend giving copies to your supporters so that they have one to reference as well. And other than that, there's really no one you have to give it to. You don't have to give it to a court or a judge. You can just keep it with you so that if you are going to a doctor's appointment, you're going to the bank, and somebody might ask questions about whether you can make this decision, you can reference it and pull it out if needed. But yeah, unlike conservatorship, you don't have to send it to a lawyer or a judge or anyone in particular. Just make sure you put it somewhere safe.
Yeah, and then other things I want to add to some comments that we've talked about earlier is when we talk about signing a document, it doesn't necessarily have to be a signature as well. It can be a stamp or an X, right? Um, Other things is folks have asked me about, my notary has said that they don't believe that my child has capacity to sign it. I do want to note that notaries are, that is not within their scope of practice to be able to determine capacity. So if you are facing that issue, please know that that should maybe not should be maybe we should seek out a different notary as well. And then Tina did add to that, do my doctors need it? Again, you can give them a copy, just having it available as well. And so thank you everyone for continuing to add it into the chat um, about what things that we want to continue to learn about. And then I think we have time for one last question. So we have Mariana, if you want to unmute yourself, you can share probably our last comment for tonight.
Hello, I just wanted to say thank you so much for this information. For me, it's very crucial to understand how this conservatorship works. For the past 2 years, I've been part of the conservatorship with my sister, but I've always had a lot of questions. And since my mom did the documentation, it's really hard for me to know what is right and what's not right. And so I just wanted to thank DBU for allowing us to be part of this knowledgeable information. And I really, I have already spoken to Judy, and Judy did ask me to send her an email, but just overall, just hearing this information, I think it's important. I get a lot of calls from the Latino communities because I also collaborate with ICC, and they have no idea and they get confused a lot. So I'm really happy that we can all collaborate together. But when it comes to this topic, it really, it's a really severe topic for me because I do get a lot of questions from the conservatorship once a year, and I sometimes don't know if I'm answering correctly or if I should share that information. So there's a lot of doubts, but I'm thankful that we have DVU and all of you guys here with all these great knowledges helping us understand this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mariana. And one last thing is if other folks have questions, Britt's email is available there. Otto has shared his social media earlier, and then I put my email in the chat as well. It's just my name at DVU United. Please feel free to contact us if we have any questions. We really hope to see you at future DVU events and at future Supported Decision Making Connects. And thank you all for joining our very first Supported Decision Making Connect. Thank you all.